Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sobat-sobat takwa channel yang dirahmati Allah, berikut ini adalah cuplikan sebuah video yang menggambarkan tentang desa muslim di negara Norwegia. Yuk kita sama-sama simak.
Second largest religion in this country, even in the midst of a strong Islamophobic atmosphere, driven by radical anti-Islam groups, the development of Islam in Norway continues to grow rapidly. However, the development of Islam in Norway cannot be ignored. Over the years, the Muslim community in Norway has continued to adapt and grow, forming an important part of the diverse Norwegian society. With an atmosphere full of tolerance and harmony, Muslims there have managed to create a strong and solid community. Norway is one of the most unique countries in the world. The country located in Northern Europe is known as the land of the midnight sun because the sun never sets from May to the end of July. In this country, not only that, Norway is also one of the places with a fairly strong level of Islamophobia. Acts of blasphemy against Islam are rampant in Norway, such as the burning of the Quran and insults to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which also often occur in this country. The chairman of Islamization of Norway said that Islam is very difficult to accept in Norway. In fact, there are parties who want to destroy all the Qur'ans that exist. An incident that sparked the anger of Muslims around the world occurred in a small town in Norway in 2019. The city is called Kristiansand. A handful of people in the city committed Islamophobic acts that were considered excessive. They tried to burn the Quran, which then sparked major protests from Muslims, both domestically and internationally. In the middle of the city, the anger of Muslims broke out. In this incident, not only Muslims in the country reacted, but also Muslims from all over the world. This was triggered by one of the masses who stepped forward and burned the Quran in his hand. Luckily, there was a young Palestinian who climbed the police barricade and attacked the man who burned the Quran. The police then scattered to separate the incident. They also used fire extinguishers to put out the fire that had burned the Quran. This incident sparked protests from Muslims in various countries. In addition, a survey in Norway revealed that job applicants with Muslim names only received 25% fewer job calls than applicants from other religions. This fact shows that discrimination against Muslims in Norway is still a serious problem. This statement shows that the level of discrimination against Muslims in Norway is very concerning. However, despite all that, slowly but surely, Islam is now the second largest religion there. The number of Muslims, which was initially only around 1,000 followers, has now increased to more than 250,000 people. This figure means around 5% of the total population of Norway. Friends of the Islamic faith who are glorified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the daily life of Muslims in Norway is more or less the same as in Muslim majority countries. Wearing the hijab in public places in Norway is still allowed. Muslims are free to wear the hijab, whether on the street, at work, or in public institutions. This is part of the freedom of religion guaranteed by Norwegian law. However, it is important to note that there are specific regulations regarding the use of certain religious clothing. Norway has adopted a law that prohibits the use of face coverings in public institutions, such as the niqab or niqab. Despite this, Muslims in Norway continue to maintain their cultural identity while adapting to life in a predominantly Christian country. Overall, despite the challenges, Muslims in Norway have created a strong community and are making positive contributions to society at large. They also hold events such as Open Mosque Day, which invites non-Muslims to come to the mosque and socialize. This event is part of an effort to expand interfaith understanding. The Muslim community in Norway is also involved in various social and educational activities, such as holding programs that promote a better understanding of Islam among the general public. The majority of Muslims in Norway are Sunni. This community consists of various ethnicities, including those of Pakistani, Somali, Iraqi, and Turkish descent. There are various Islamic organizations in Norway, such as mosques and Muslim community organizations, that focus on youth empowerment and interfaith dialogue. One of the famous mosques is the Islamic Cultural Center Norway, which is based in Oslo. This mosque is seen to be more active during the holy month of Ramadan. In addition to being a place of worship, this mosque also holds various activities such as Quran recitation, religious studies, and other public services. During Ramadan, this mosque is often the center of Muslim community activities. Activities carried out include announcing the times for sahur and iftar, as well as various social programs and charity activities. The duration of fasting in Norway varies depending on the season and location. In summer, in some parts of Norway, fasting time can reach around 20 hours due to the midnight sun phenomenon, where the sun does not actually set. In contrast, in winter, fasting can be much shorter, around 5 to 6 hours. To overcome the extreme fasting duration, Muslims in Norway often follow the fasting times of Mecca or the fasting times recommended by the local Muslim community. The atmosphere of breaking the fast in Norway has its own characteristics. Although geographical challenges, such as the long fasting duration, can be tough, the spirit of togetherness and solidarity of the Muslim community there remains strong. In fact, it is getting closer. Muslims in Norway often gather at mosques or community centers to break their fast together. This creates a warm sense of togetherness, especially in the midst of an environment that is predominantly non-Muslim. In some cities, there are also Ramadan bazaars that provide food and necessities during the fasting month. These bazaars become a place to socialize and strengthen community ties. After breaking the fast, the activity is usually continued with the Maghrib prayer in congregation, creating an atmosphere full of solemnity and togetherness. Usually, breaking the fast is followed by Maghrib prayer together, then continued with Isha and Tarawih prayers. Despite the long duration of fasting, Muslims still carry out their worship with great enthusiasm. After Ramadan ends, Muslims in Norway gather in mosques to perform Eid prayers together. This is an important moment where they meet each other, pray, and strengthen ties. Many Muslim organizations and communities hold special events, such as bazaars, cultural performances, and social activities to celebrate Eid. These events are an opportunity to get to know each other better and strengthen a sense of solidarity. As part of the tradition, many give zakat and donations to those in need, showing a spirit of caring and togetherness. Despite being far from Muslim-majority countries, Ramadan and Eid are celebrated with joy, togetherness, and a sense of victory. Islam is actually the second largest religion there after Catholicism, although several institutions have different figures regarding the number of Muslim populations. The Pew Research Institute calculated that 5.7% of Norway's population was Muslim in 2016. Statistics Norway estimated that 3.29%, or 175,000 Norwegians, were Muslim in 2019. Even the number of Muslims was first included in official statistics in 1980. At that time, the number of Muslims was claimed to be only 1,006 people. This data is based on the number of official mosque or prayer room memberships. It is estimated that the number of Muslims is greater than that data because many Muslims tend not to be members of a particular mosque. Muslim immigrants who seek their fortune in Norway mostly come from Palestine, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. The rest come from other Middle Eastern countries, the former Yugoslavia and Somalia. Their numbers are estimated to have only increased significantly after the 1960s. The majority of Muslims in Norway are Sunni and the rest are Shia. An estimated 55% of Muslims live in big cities such as Oslo and Akershus. Islam is not only practiced by immigrants, some native residents also practice it. Yusuf al-Nahi and Vegard Bjørge are native residents who converted to Islam. Both focus on issues of tolerance and minority rights in cyberspace in the real world. Mosques in Norway are not only used as places of worship, mosques are also locations for Muslim community activities. Some mosques also provide services for repatriating the bodies of Muslims who want to be buried in their home country. The location of the mosque is usually in certain blocks in the city, so that it is not so visible in the city center. The Islamic Cultural Center in Norway claims to be the first mosque in Norway. The mosque in Oslo was opened in 1974. This is the story of Muslims from Tromsø, a city in northern Norway that has a phenomenon where the sun does not set. So how do they pray? This phenomenon is normal in the northern and southern parts of the earth. Even in winter, the sun will not appear. For Muslims, the calculation of prayer times is by looking at the sun as a reference. Of course, that is easy to do in countries with 2 seasons. However, for countries with 4 seasons, determining prayer times will be very different. For example, the Maghrib prayer time could be at 2200 hours at night when the sun has really set. The city of Tromsø is inhabited by around 70,000 people, many immigrants from Africa and Asia, most of whom are Muslims. They moved to Tromsø to save their lives and have been doing so since the 1980s. The immigrants and the natives live in peace. In fact, the natives do not prohibit the immigrants from building mosques. In total, there are 2 large mosques in Tromsø. The issue of prayer times has become a problem for Muslims in Tromsø. They are always confused. When I was little, it was so easy to hear the call to prayer 5 times a day. But now, never mind the call to prayer, determining prayer times is always a debate, said Hussein Abdi Yusuf with a smile, an immigrant from Somalia and a mosque imam. Regarding prayer in a city where the sun does not set or rise, scholars in Saudi Arabia have issued 3 fatwas. These fatwas make it easier to determine prayer times. First, Muslims in Tromsø can follow the prayer times of the nearest country. Second, they can follow the prayer times of their home country. Third, they can follow the prayer times of the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, which is the Holy Land and birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad. The 3 fatwas were handed over to the congregation. Most of them took the 3rd fatwa by following the prayer times of the city of Mecca. Although some also follow the prayer times of their home country, it doesn't matter. For Muslims in Tromsø, the difficulty of determining prayer times when the sun does not set is actually considered a form of gratitude, to enjoy how great and extraordinary God's creation is to the ends of the earth. This city gives us something different. The important thing is that we all live in peace here, said Yusuf, a Muslim resident of Tromsø. Do you know the midnight sun phenomenon? Midnight sun is a phenomenon where the sun does not set and is hot when the clock shows midnight. This phenomenon occurs in Norway, especially in the north. Does this phenomenon occur every year? Reported from the Visit Norway media, midnight sun, or 24-hour sun, lasts for 76 days between May and July every year. The sun does not set for 76 days, as if it only rotates around the cardinal directions from east to west, but does not set or sink. The sun is still visible. Likewise, if the reflection of moonlight can be seen when the sun dims. Are there Muslims in Norway, especially in areas that experience the midnight sun phenomenon? There are 1,200 Muslims who live close to the area. Bodø is in the Arctic region where this area is a hub or city with major transportation between ships. Interestingly, Muslims there do not feel thirsty when fasting, even when the midnight sun phenomenon occurs, as stated by Dr. Walid Hakim in one of his video posts in 2019. Do Muslims in Norway fast every year with the sun not setting? In the past few years, such as in 2019, 2020, and 2021, Muslims in Norway have been observing Ramadan with the midnight sun phenomenon. That year was the year when Ramadan arrived at the same time as summer in the range of May to July. If calculated, it has been 3 years in a row that Ramadan in northern Norway occurred during midnight sun. So what about this year? Will this year's Ramadan in northern Norway also occur during midnight sun? If calculated based on the start date of Ramadan this year, it starts on April 1st or 2nd until possibly early May. Norwegian Muslims will most likely fast as usual with local time. During the summer, the northern Norway region experiences 24 hours of sun, which means there is no night for 76 days. Reported from the Visit Norway media, providing illustrative data that the midnight sun is likely to last for approximately 1,800 hours. So what if Ramadan comes during summer? That means there is no sunset and the sun continues to be visible. What about the provisions for fasting and obligatory prayers and Tarawih? 22 hours experiencing the heat of the sun and sometimes 24 hours experiencing midnight sun. Dr. Walid Hakim, a Muslim living in Bodø, northern Norway, said through his social media account that the provisions for fasting times and obligatory prayers and Tarawih follow the times in the city of Mecca. If you are a traveler, Norway may be one of the unique destinations with its geography. You can enjoy 24 hours of traveling and not be hindered by nighttime. If you go to Norway, it is very interesting because the further north you go, the more nights there are with the sun not setting or places that experience midnight sun. Here are some areas in northern Norway that experience midnight sun, namely Helgeland, Bodø-Salten, Lofoten, Troms, Finnmark, and several other areas. Helgeland is the southern part of northern Norway, famous for being the most beautiful place to travel. Next is Tromsø, which is called the Northern Paris and has full or hot sun every hour for a whole month. Locals call it a time-free zone, and during the day every hour it is daylight all hours during the summer. Friends of the Islamic faith, do you all know that the number of Norwegians embracing Islam continues to increase, including native Norwegians? The number of Norwegians converting to Islam has increased to at least 3,000 in recent years. A researcher at the University of Oslo's Department of Oriental Languages and Culture Studies, Kari Vogt, said, local newspaper Verdens Gang reported on Sunday that the number of Norwegians choosing to become Muslims has increased since the 1990s. The report said the number of converts in the country during the 1990s was around 500, while this number has reached around 3,000 in recent years. Noting that Norwegian women previously converted to Islam after marrying Muslim men, Vogt said, this trend has now changed drastically. Now women choose Islam after reading and researching about Islam. Monica Salmuk, a convert, told the newspaper that she chose Islam 4 years ago after researching and reading a number of books about the religion. Salmuk said he visited the Islamic Cultural Center, or ICC, mosque in Greenland, Oslo, and decided to make Islam his religion. Solva Nabila Sexelen, a 42-year-old Norwegian, also said that she decided to convert to Islam after being inspired by the Muslim asylum seekers she had helped. Norway, one of the happiest Scandinavian countries in the world, the citizens of this Viking country live prosperously amidst the dynamics of multicultural life. Oslo, the capital of Norway, is the most crowded city, not only in terms of population, but also the variety of ethnicities living in it. Norway has indeed opened its doors wide to immigrants, including Muslim immigrants. This is what makes the name of Islam widely heard in the salmon country. In fact, the development of Islam is quite rapid. In the late 90s, there were only 500 converts here, while at the end of 2015, there were 3,000 native Norwegian converts. Islam is considered to have offered a different lifestyle and is able to provide a grip on life amidst the rapid flow of European life. One interesting story to hear is the life of Muslims in the city of Hamar. This city is 130 kilometers north of Oslo, a small town of 26,000 people with only 2 native Norwegian Muslims living here. One of them is Morten Ibrahim Rosvold Abrahamsen, or now familiarly called Ibrahim. He has a tragic story before finding Islam. Norwegians generally view religion as a private matter and are not comfortable with obvious signs or displays of religion in public. That goes for all religions, including Christianity. Norway is a very secular society. If you don't show your religion or religious affiliation in public, people don't care whether you are Muslim or Christian or Jewish or atheist. If you insist on showing your religious affiliation in public in everyday life through obvious religious symbols or practices, it's much more complicated. Religious people are considered to be potentially anti-gay, anti-women's liberation, and thus anti-democracy and equality. If you insist on showing your religious affiliation in public, you can even be considered against the core values and culture of Norway. This is especially true for wearing the burqa. A simple hijab combined with Western clothing is usually not a big deal. The hijab is considered relatively acceptable by most people, but not in all situations. Muslims and other religious people who do not display their religion and religious affiliation outside of the private sphere are generally respected and judged on how well they respect Norwegian cultural codes. If you are a foreigner visiting Norway, we will accommodate you and make you feel welcome. However, there are 2 things we will not accommodate: praying in public openly and not shaking hands with women. Both are considered very rude and will be punished because people will resent it and get very angry. Many Muslims wonder if Norway is a safe place for them to live and practice their religion. Statistics show that there is a deep fear of Muslims among the Norwegian population in general. Dear friends of the Islamic faith, an interesting phenomenon is the increasing number of people converting to Islam in Norway every day. This may be due to various factors, including interest in deeper Islamic teachings, the search for spirituality, and the influence of social media, which facilitates the spread of information and discussions related to Islam. In several large cities such as Oslo, Bergen, and Stavanger, mosques have developed and become centers of religious, cultural, and educational activities. Although Islam is not the majority religion in Norway, the Muslim community can still coexist peacefully with non-Muslim residents. This is driven by the attitude of tolerance and religious freedom that is highly respected in this country. The Norwegian government also provides freedom for every individual to choose their religion and beliefs, including establishing a place of worship and celebrating religious celebrations. Overall, although Norway does not have long nights like some other countries with extreme climates, Islam is still growing rapidly there. Every day, many individuals choose to convert to Islam, which shows how this religion is increasingly accepted and appreciated in Norwegian society. The development of Islam in Norway is also supported by various Islamic organizations and institutions that are active in dawah, education, and community development activities. Several Muslim organizations in Norway not only provide support to Muslims, but also strive to bridge the understanding between Islam and non-Muslim communities. They often hold seminars, discussions, and cultural events that aim to introduce Islamic teachings in more depth, while also educating Norwegian society about religious diversity. In addition, among the younger generation of Norwegian Muslims, there is a strong drive to maintain their religious identity while integrating with the wider Norwegian society. Many of them are involved in social, sports, and cultural activities, thus proving that they are not only active in religion, but also play a role in building society as a whole. This shows a healthy adaptation process, where Islamic values are still respected, but they also participate in social life in Norway. Personally, many non-Muslim Norwegians feel inspired by the calmness, discipline, and spirituality taught in Islam. Some people who were previously not interested in religion have finally chosen to embrace Islam after getting to know its teachings better. There is also the phenomenon of people embracing Islam through personal interactions with Muslim friends or after going on a spiritual journey to learn more about the religion. Meanwhile, challenges to the development of Islam in Norway remain, especially related to the negative stereotypes and prejudices that sometimes arise against Muslims. However, the Muslim community in Norway shows resilience and a strong sense of unity, and they continue to strive to build better relations with the wider community. This is evident in their efforts to engage in interfaith dialogue, share knowledge, and introduce Islam as a religion of peace, tolerance, and compassion. In conclusion, although Islam is not the majority religion in Norway, it has experienced significant growth in the country. Norwegian society is increasingly accepting of religious and cultural diversity, and Islam continues to develop through preaching, education, and positive social integration. Islam is not only part of the immigrant identity, but is also increasingly accepted by Norwegian society as a whole. Eid al-Fitr in Norway is celebrated with great joy and enthusiasm, even though the country is not a Muslim majority country. The celebration usually begins with Eid prayers held in large mosques or in open spaces, especially in large cities such as Oslo, Bergen, and Stavanger. Eid prayers in Norway are usually attended by thousands of Muslims, consisting of various ethnic and cultural backgrounds. After the prayers, Muslims gather to visit the homes of relatives and friends, share food, and celebrate the day of victory after a month of fasting. Typical Eid dishes, such as dates, pastries, and traditional foods from various Muslim countries, such as kebabs, biryani rice, or Middle Eastern and South Asian cuisine, are often served. Although there is no national holiday for Eid al-Fitr in Norway, many Muslims celebrate by spending time with their families and friends, and by engaging in social activities. As the Muslim population in the country increases, many shops and markets also offer special products for Eid al-Fitr, such as new clothes, knickknacks, or specific ingredients used in Eid dishes. In addition, in some large cities, there are also community events organized by Muslim organizations, such as social events, traditional markets, or gatherings to share happiness with non-Muslim neighbors and friends. These also provide an opportunity for non-Muslims to learn more about Islamic culture and traditions, which strengthens interfaith ties and promotes mutual understanding. However, Eid al-Fitr celebrations in Norway are slightly different due to the summer weather, which tends to be longer, with some areas experiencing very short nights or almost no nights at all. Nevertheless, the cheerful atmosphere and festive spirit are still felt, even though the fasting period in summer can be longer than in countries with tropical climates. Eid al-Fitr in Norway is a time of joy, spiritual reflection, and togetherness. Norwegian Muslims celebrate their day of victory with joy while maintaining good relations with the surrounding community and introducing their traditions to the wider community. In addition, Eid al-Fitr in Norway is also a time to show solidarity and care for others. Many Muslims use this opportunity to give to charity by donating food or money to those less fortunate, both within the Muslim community and Norwegian society in general. This is a very important tradition in Islam, reflecting the values of sharing and caring for others. Some mosques in Norway also organize fundraising events or provide social assistance during Eid al-Fitr, such as providing food for the underprivileged or hosting events for orphans. These activities are not limited to Muslims, but often involve the general public, creating a greater sense of togetherness and unity amidst the celebrations. It is important to note that while Eid al-Fitr is a day of joy, many Muslims in Norway face challenges related to work or school, as it is not recognized as a national holiday. However, most people are able to arrange their time to attend Eid prayers and celebrate with their families, with many workplaces and schools providing flexibility or permission for Muslims who wish to celebrate. For many, Eid al-Fitr in Norway is a symbol of diversity and acceptance in society. Although Islam is not the majority religion in the country, the celebration remains an important moment for Muslims to strengthen their relationships with each other, both within the Muslim community and with the wider Norwegian society. It is also a time to appreciate and celebrate the values of the religion that teaches peace, compassion, and brotherhood. For those of you who are of the Islamic faith, that is the life and atmosphere of Ramadan and the celebration of Eid al-Fitr for
Masya Allah, tabarakallah, luar biasa sekali ya. Benar-benar mencerminkan memang desa yang penduduknya bernuansa Islami. Semoga cuplikan kali ini dapat menambah wawasan bagi kita semua dan menambah ketakwaan kita kepada Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Terima kasih sudah menonton. Silakan berkomentar di kolom komentar jika ada yang ingin menambahkan informasi dari video tersebut. Sampai jumpa kembali di postingan berikutnya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Friends of the Islamic faith who are blessed by Allah, I hope this video is useful and see you in our next video.